as soon as like we could start to see the community, just seeing all the people and all the people that were welcoming us and the signs that they had and the thankfulness they had, that was amazing to see our first water well, getting to use our first water well, getting to drink from our first water well. That was really cool. But what was most impactful was this like elderly woman in the community. She was showing us where they used to collect water from, and seeing where they used to drink water from was shocking. Like, you cannot believe that people in the world drink water from this. And not alone that, she was saying that like younger kids, I think they had 3 kids drown in their community
Oh,
trying
wow.
to get water because they would have to go deep into this area, and climb into like this little pond area. And 3 kids had passed away in that community in the last 5 years.
Hey guys, and welcome to the CEO After Dark show. Today I have Chris with me, the founder and CEO of Do Amore, a former oil and gas engineer that has actually managed to sell over 40 million worth of engagement rings and have a direct impact on thousands of people living across 11 countries while doing so. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much, George. Excited about it.
It's fantastic to have you here, man. Do you mind just giving us a little bit of context about your company? Like, what sort of impact do you guys create so that everybody has an understanding of what you guys do?
Yeah, of course. So Do Amore, it's an engagement and wedding ring company, where we believe that couples can use that life-changing day to actually change other people's life. So every time we sell an engagement ring or a wedding ring, and now even piece of jewelry, we actually bring a person in a developing country access to clean water. That way, the couple has this direct impact of truly using that life-changing moment to actually impact the world and change another life forever.
How does that work? Like, does a percentage of the sales go to how
Yeah.
does that work?
So it's not like a percentage of sales because every time we sell a ring, first of all, the ring's a different cost. And then second of all, bringing people clean water is so different in every country. In Kenya and Uganda, it's very different than to bring someone water in Bangladesh, Nepal, or India. They're all very different. So the way we do it is we, along with our clean water partner, we track the population in a community. So if a
Mhm.
community has 48 people, and we decide to go drill a water well there, we know that 48 rings need to sponsor that water project. And water projects, they can be anywhere from $6,000 all the way up to, I think the most expensive water well we've drilled is $35,000. So it really is just a massive, spans. It depends on how deep the well has to be and everything. But for us, it's important that every single couple is responsible for impacting that other life forever. So we track each population in the community, and then we actually will assign that many rings to that community so that we know. And it's really cool because when a couple actually buys an engagement ring from us, when we ship their ring, they'll actually get to visit our website and see the GPS coordinates of the water well that they helped create. They'll get to see a photo of the community, the photo of the well. So it's really cool. Like, we are now the only for-profit company in the world that proves social impact, and we can actually prove it through these GPS coordinates and photos and all of this.
That's awesome. And to be honest, like I'm always in awe about people like yourself that have a social impact. And I assume it started way before the business. Like you wanted to have an impact way before the business, probably, right?
Yeah, I'd say it's kind of mixed. So, yeah, I grew, went to school, ended up going to school for mechanical engineering, and while in school, I think it was very important to me that I would work at a company. I'd be there a long time. I would keep moving up the ladder. One day, try to become like CEO or something. Like, that was really important to me. And out of college, my first job, I was transferred to the middle of nowhere to drill oil and gas wells. And very quickly, literally in the middle of nowhere, living in a trailer, I would learn just how easy it is to drill for water, but how hard it is to drill for oil. When we drilled for oil, it would take us weeks and weeks and weeks to get to that oil, but we would hit water within just a few minutes of drilling. And I had seen the water crisis when I was younger, traveling with my family, seeing people without clean water. And I never knew in my life that water is so easy to get to. It's literally, 25, 35 yards beneath our feet, right? And I couldn't believe that people in developing countries were dying from not having water when the water is literally right there. So that was kind of the first moment where I was like, man, maybe I should do something. Maybe I should do something to help. So that wasn't the plan until that moment.
What makes it so expensive if it's so easy? Like, do you happen to know? Because you
Yeah,
mentioned it can be quite expensive, actually.
sure. I guess it is expensive in one sense, but compared to like oil and gas drilling, it's so cheap, right? The oil and gas drilling, you might be spending $12 million,
Okay,
$14 million on a well.
I
So
take
it's
that back.
really, yeah. So what's expensive about it, relatively though, for clean water is you have to get a drilling rig out there. And these communities, some of them are so rural that to get a drilling rig out to this place, it could take, days and days of driving through very treacherous land. There's probably no roads in this area, so they have to get a trailer out, get that drilling rig there. Then they have to rent the drilling rig for 2 3 weeks. Like it takes time, and then of course finishing the well, bringing in the piping and all of this from other areas. Like it becomes expensive because of that. But what's cool is that once someone has clean water, like there is nothing that changes a life
Mhm.
in the way clean water does. Everything else is so important. Obviously, medicine, food, education, all of that's important. But
Yeah.
clean water has the biggest impact on a life. When you go from not having water to having water, that changes everything. And that's why we chose clean water.
That's 50% of the insight that led you to build a business, though. Like, that's the
Yeah,
clean water piece.
correct.
How did you tie this to the engagements?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it was just on my mind, like, wow, clean water is right there and people are dying from not having it. That's so sad. Like, what can we do? And around the same time, I was getting ready to propose. I was looking for an engagement ring for my now wife. And I would go call stores on the phone. Because I was in a trailer in the middle of nowhere. So I would call these stores. I would, online chat with these stores, email stores, and I emailed 14 stores or talked to 14 stores. And I asked them questions about ethics and sourcing. And you wouldn't believe this. Every one of the 14 stores came back with the exact same two sentences. It's the scripted two-sentence line that all of them give. And like once it came back from like two people, I was just like, that's weird. And then like literally all 14 had the exact same lines. And it's like, wow, this is like these statements are founded like on a basis of like fear, like what's going to happen if someone asks us where our diamonds are from, right? Like they were based on a source of fear and they didn't actually mean anything. So it was just like, wow, like these, I cannot trust that this purchase is going to be ethical. And I'm about to tell the most important person in my life that I want to spend the rest of my life with them and, declare my love and, all of that, right? And how can
Yeah.
the symbol of love actually potentially have hurt people? That doesn't make any sense. So I just decided when I proposed, I wanted to propose with a ring that didn't just not hurt the world, but actually help the world. And so I began thinking, how can I help the world? How can I help change a life? And clean water just came back. And clean water was on my mind, obviously, but from research I learned that there is nothing in the world that impacts a life like clean water. So it just made sense to me. And so I proposed, and the day I proposed, we brought a person access to clean water in Haiti, and it kind of just started from there.
How did you do that? Like, did you invest money in where, or like how did I'm just
Yeah,
trying
so
to
at the
do it
time,
because for me,
100%.
I'm an online guy, right? Like, and I kind
Yeah.
of do not see how it works offline. That like I buy the
Yeah,
ring
yeah,
and
sure.
then suddenly something like, how does it work?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So at the time, yes, like that's what we would do. So, we would, wait till we had, a certain number of engagement rings. Then we would go find a community
Yeah,
that had a similar number of people, and we would backtrack each one of those rings to that many people in the community, and we would go sponsor a water project, and it would be drilled, and it would take us 8 to 10 months to get the well finished and tested, and it would take a long time.
yeah,
um, and then we would get the GPS coordinates photos, and we would say, okay, these 17 rings are responsible for these 17 people in this community. These 80 rings are responsible for these 80 people in this community, and so on. Now, fortunately, now that we're able to like forecast sales out a little bit, we're actually starting to fund water projects a little bit in advance. So customers no longer need to wait 10 months or 12 months to get those GPS coordinates. Now we're able to give GPS coordinates much faster just because we have like a forecast now. But at the same time, like it is very important to know, like without that customer's purchase, like that, like unfortunately, like one less person would have water. Like it's really important. Like each of those purchases are really responsible for changing lives. Like it's direct one for one. And you've heard of a lot of social impact companies, right? Starting with Tom's Shoes and
Yeah.
so many things, right? Buy a pair of shoes, give a pair of shoes, and all of these great companies. For us, it obviously rings and water, they don't go together, right? They don't go together. So for us, what's important is change a life forever on your own life changing day. It's not so much about water, it's about making a life changing impact. And the means of that just happens to be water right now.
When was the moment you realized like it truly has an impact what you're doing? Like I assume there was some moment where like, wow, I've built something
Yeah.
that really changes lives.
Yeah. I think obviously kind of it was always dear to my heart. So it always stayed on my mind. But I think the first time I went to Ethiopia to see our first water well that we drilled, um, we're in this, we had to rent like, this 4x4 car to get there because it's so remote. And you're in this 4x4 Land Rover trying to get to this community. And as soon as like we could start to see the community, just seeing all the people and all the people that were welcoming us and the signs that they had and the thankfulness they had, that was amazing to see our first water well, getting to use our first water well, getting to drink from our first water well. That was really cool. But what was most impactful was this like elderly woman in the community. She was showing us where they used to collect water from, and seeing where they used to drink water from was shocking. Like you cannot believe that people in the world drink water from this. And not alone that, she was saying that like younger kids, I think they had 3 kids drown in their community
Oh,
trying
wow.
to get water because they would have to go deep into this area, and climb into like this little pond area. And 3 kids had passed away in that community in the last 5 years. So that was just shocking to me too, and so it was really heartwarming to see that they now have access to clean water, and it's really impacted everyone's lives in such a dramatic way.
That's pretty strong.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
assume
for
also
sure.
like from the customers also you probably have received a lot of positive feedback due to doing this, right? Like,
Yeah, I'd say it's like kind of mixed. Like I think for everyone, no matter who it is, it's like a nice to have. To some people, the fact that we have it's like a bonus. To some people, like that's the only reason they're buying from us. So it's kind of mixed. Like I think some people, like the only reason they're even looking at Do Amore is because they want to support us. Some people just found a ring they like and they don't even know about the impact until later on. They're like, oh wow, I didn't even know y'all did that. Like so it's kind of mixed, but I would say our core customer base does have some, care for what we're doing.
what about the rings themselves? Like, how do you like? Are they different in some way than other rings? Like, how do you source them? Like, tell us a little bit about that part of the business.
Yeah, so engagement rings are obviously what everyone thinks about with the big diamond in the middle, right? And
Yeah.
wedding bands oftentimes are just more simple, right? They're just like plain gold or plain metal. And so for that part, what's important to us is still the sourcing. So we use recycled gold in our rings, recycled gold, recycled platinum. Uh, what we've learned is like one of the most environmentally destructive parts of buying jewelry is the mining for gold, right? We all think about the diamond, but the gold part is also very important. So we use recycled gold. There's gold everywhere, right? Old jewelry, in our cell phones, in our electronics. There's so much gold. And when you can recycle that gold and you refine it, recycled gold is the exact same as mined gold. There's no difference once you
Still
refine it.
gold,
So
right?
we use recycled. It's the same gold. Yeah. So we recycle it. We use recycled gold. And that way, it's much less of an impact as well. Um, and you know, overall, like for us, these are like two of the probably most important milestones that people experience, engagements and weddings. And so those are the first two milestones that we've kind of tackled.
I see. And based on how you're phrasing this, I assume that you plan to tackle more, right? Like not just those events.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think we would like to kind of transition from just being an engagement and wedding ring company making a difference in the world to being a company that allows you to use every important milestone in life to make a difference in the world. So other milestones where people buy jewelry, for example, at least here in the US, it's like a big thing that when you graduated from high school or college,
Yeah.
many times you'll buy a student class ring. Um, that symbolizes, the completion of your education. So to us, like we think, what better way to commemorate that completion of education than by giving a child access to education somewhere? So we'd like to, we've already started on special requests from customers when they message us. We can do, student class rings for their university that
Yeah.
they're graduating from to commemorate that. Special anniversaries. Another special thing for people is a lot of times people, when they have their first child, they'll buy the mom a very beautiful piece of jewelry. And same thing for us. Like, what better way to commemorate the birth of your beautiful, healthy child than by giving a child access to safe birth in a developing country? So we're trying to find ways to make these other important milestones where people are already buying jewelry to have an impact.
When you look back at all that
Mhm.
you've done, and you've done quite a lot, like what would be the one thing that you perhaps would have done differently?
Yeah. I think for us, early on, I was so um, I was very worried that people like are going to be nervous about buying an engagement ring from a small company that's operated by one person at the time, maybe two people. Um, that it kind of was that in my head it was really that fake it till you make it mentality, and I would try to make us look larger than we are. And now that we actually are larger than we are, it's like actually important for us to be so personal with each customer that
Yeah.
we're actually like purposefully staying small and making sure that each customer knows just how small and intimate of a company we are. So it's just interesting that like when we were small, we were trying to act larger than we are. And now that we are, a moderate size, we're realizing that being small was one of our biggest advantages we ever had. And so that's kind of how we keep ourselves now. We keep ourselves small, lean. We're a team of 7 people. That's it. And and it's just really important to us to be so personal with each customer. So that was a huge advantage. And I think trying to act larger than you are was pointless. There's just no need for that.
I want to use that to segue into advice that you would perhaps be
Yeah.
giving people that want to start a business, particularly business that also has impact, social impact.
Okay.
Like, is there anything that stands out on your experience?
hmm Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that stands out for sure, and this comes from my own business and also like mentoring other businesses. The impact part, if it's important to you, that's awesome, and you should keep it dear to your heart and do it. Um, I will say the majority, like you're not going to make a business out of the impact. Like you have to have an amazing product, you have to have an amazing service. That part is like key, and you cannot just be 99% as good as your competitors and have that impact, because at the end of the day it's not going to work. You have to be just as good or 100% plus better than everyone else and have the impact. So having that true perfect product is very important. Saying that, um, it's not worth just sitting there trying to perfect your product and not launching. Once you have something ready to go, like go out, test it. Go. Don't wait for everything to be perfect. Go out, test it, take feedback, keep improving it. Um, but as long as you have that impact dear to your heart, and you have this desire to make the best product there is, they kind of go hand in hand. And as long as you keep working towards striving for that product to keep improving, then you'll make it. And that's what I would say. Like, just keep iterating, but don't just sit around and like, you know, keep, fiddling with your product until it's perfect, because by then it'll be too late. Like, by
How
then
was
someone
this
else
for
would have
you?
done
Like,
it. So,
how was this for
yeah, for
you when you were
me,
starting?
I would say I actually did a really good job of this. Like, I just designed the website. I put a couple of rings out there from, I found this manufacturer that was willing to use recycled gold. So I just put a couple of rings out there, launched a website, started like writing some blog posts, got some traffic, and started making some sales. And what's great about my product, what's amazing about it, is you don't actually need to keep inventory, right? because usually people are planning proposals and they're planning weddings. They're not just saying, "Oh, I'm going to propose day after tomorrow and I need this,
Yeah.
1 day shipping." So what was great about that is I didn't have to have this inventory cost, right? So a customer would place an order for a ring, I would have 2 weeks to make the ring, right? So like because of that, it wasn't super capital intense. Versus I think when I think about it, I'm like, oh, to start an engagement ring store, jewelry store, you're going to need so much money in capital, right? But doing this online, I needed literally so little capital. I started Do Amore with $18,000. Um, and I've never put more money in. All $18,000, that's the only capital ever invested into Do Amore. Everything from Do Amore has grown from that single investment and using the profits to keep growing. So we that was like a real key thing for me. So yeah, just launched the website, started selling rings. Once the order would come in, get it ordered with manufacturing through our ethical manufacturer, ship it out to the customer. And we didn't like waste too much time trying to perfect the brand. We didn't waste too much time trying to perfect everything. But like while we were running the business, we were also improving things
Yeah.
on the side. So continuous improvement.
I assume you are entirely self-taught when it comes to like marketing, because your training is in engineering, right?
Yeah, yeah. So definitely no business experience, no jewelry experience at all either. So it was completely self-taught, but um, at the same time, like it's pretty cool what passion can make you do, right? Like, it was fun staying up till 3, 4 in the morning learning about this and then, waking up at 6 for work. Like it wasn't a chore. It
Yeah.
was excitement. Like you can't sleep because you have to know how this next thing is going to work, right? So it was real fun and like we are not wildly successful where we're like a public company or anything, right? But I'll say we are successful. We're
You
doing
are
a
very
great job.
successful, I would say.
Yeah, but like it is so true what they say. Like when you look back to like the days of starting your company, like it's hard to imagine better days than that, right? It was just so much fun, and yeah, like those are just some of the best days. Sitting there trying to figure things out. I think as an engineer, the problem solving part really helped. That part of engineering helped, but everything else was self taught. But it was the internet, right? So it wasn't that bad. Like I think starting a business in the 70s, 80s, it must have been much tougher, right?
For sure.
Starting a business now is pretty easy. I would say it's pretty easy.
Everything is available, I guess, right? And everything is more or
Yeah,
less figured outable.
correct. I think starting a business now is as easy as it's ever been. I do think scaling a business now is probably as tough as it's ever been because it's so easy to start a business. There's so many businesses out there now, and there's so much competition out there. So I think starting a business is easy as ever, but scaling a business is as tough as ever.
Do you guys ship outside the US or is it more focused on the US?
Yeah, so we are focused on the US and the fact that we don't advertise internationally, but we do ship outside of the US. We've shipped to I think over 30 countries now. Um, and it's always one of my favorite parts actually because to know that there's someone in Europe or South America or Asia like looking at our products, like that's amazing. It's such a great feeling, and to know that there's other people in the world that care about this is very reassuring too. I would say like after the U.S., Canada, Australia has been a big market for us. In general, quite a bit of Europe has, and Japan as well.
Probably a sign rather of word of mouth, right? If you're not advertising, people are probably talking
Yeah,
about
I
it.
think it's potentially word of mouth or potentially just, it's hard to search for like ethical products without finding us, I would say. So I think also just people in that with that mindset of wanting to find something sustainable and ethical. And which I mean, what's cool is when I started Do Amore, there was probably one company out there that really cared about sourcing. And now I want to say there's like six or seven. So it's cool actually that more and more people are caring about this. Um, Saying that we're still the only one that really focuses on not just hurting the world but helping the world, right? Like we really care about the help part. Like let's not just make sure this product's not going to hurt anyone. Let's actually make it help someone. So we're still the only ones doing that.
And based on how you're phrasing this, I suppose you are mostly focusing, like from a business perspective, on search marketing and PR because people find you easily when they search for this, right?
Yeah. So what we've actually found is that like storytelling is very important for us, being able to do the storytelling. So for us, storytelling platforms like, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, those have worked better
Okay.
than things like Google search. Saying that, we are now trying to go after Google search because now we feel like we have a brand and we can actually do it. Historically, it was more storytelling for us. Now we're starting to bring search into the mix.
Storytelling in what way? How do you mean? Like, would it be like a person talking yourself, or like how would that go?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Through video ads, things like that. Telling our story, telling the story of the company, couples telling the story about their rings and the life changing impact it's having. So in that sense,
Got it. And when
yeah.
you look forward, besides expanding the categories of products that you deliver, like, is there anything else on the horizon for you guys? Like any exciting plans that you would perhaps like to share?
I think, yeah, so definitely adding more product lines, categories. I think like one thing that's very important to me is to we are very clean right now. Our supply chain is the most transparent there is, and just still finding ways to make it even better. Like there has to be ways to keep going. Like, that continuous improvement part's important to me. Um, Another thing that's important to me is uh, just like the overall customer experience. I think our customer service is just absolutely incredible, but finding it even easier ways to help people buy a ring online. Like buying an engagement ring is not easy. You have to pick your ring. You have to figure all that out. You have to figure out the girlfriend's ring size. You have to figure out what quality of stone you want. Like it's pretty tough, and just finding ways to continuously improve that. Because once a customer calls us, we can walk them through everything. And I can promise you, if a customer calls us in that 10 minutes, they're going to learn more about rings and they're going to have a very clear idea of what to do after just 10 minutes. But if they don't call us, like doing it all online is still not the easiest thing. So just
Yeah.
still finding ways to bring technology and AI and do things to make this easier for people.
I actually, I'm not engaged, by the way, and I have no clue. How does that work? How do you find the ring size, actually?
Yeah,
Because you
so
have to ask, but
it's
without asking, right? Like, probably.
it's tough. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of tricks that we will use or suggest to customers. That's actually one of my most that blog post alone that I wrote 7 years ago probably brought us a lot of traffic. How to get your girlfriend's ring size. But like one thing we can do now is if a customer sends us a photo of their partner standing up where you can see their hand, as long as they tell us how tall they are, we can get pretty close. Using an algorithm. So like that's helping. Also, compared to when I started Domo Mori to now, in just a short time, the number of people where their partner is involved with the ring has increased a lot. Before it was like 90% wanted to surprise.
Yeah.
Now it's like 50%. So half the time, the partner already does know the ring size now. But for the surprise part, we can help through photos and things like that.
Awesome. Awesome. For people that want to look into the brand, what is the website? Like, how can people find
Yeah,
you?
so it's just doamore.com. That's Doamore. It's like do more with an A between the two words. So do more with an A between the two words. So Do Amore. So that's how you can find us. And um, yeah, it's really been a pleasure getting to build this company and help people along the way. And what's also been cool is just the fact that we've gotten to, I feel, play a small role in changing the industry. Um, I feel like even if people don't buy from us, them having come across our brand, they will ask their jewelers the tougher questions. Hey, where is this diamond from? Or where is this metal from? Oh, can you build it with recycled gold instead? Like, I feel like even if it's not reflected completely in a purchase from us, it's still doing it. It's still playing a role in changing the industry for the better.
Got it. And one last thing, because you mentioned that you've consulted with, like, or coached companies. Like, do you do that? Can people reach out to you for advice, or like, how does that work?
Yeah, of course, 100%. Yeah, so I do mentor a few companies, which has been amazing. Um, and I will say, like, I'm very transparent with my thoughts, and I feel like that's like the best way to mentor someone. And I've also been wrong before, which is great too, right? So
Yeah,
it's
obviously.
really fun. It's a pleasure, and it's so nice to get to talk to passionate founders as well. So my email is just krish@doamori.com.
email would be the way to contact you, right? Like
Yeah,
not social or anything.
that or
Okay.
Instagram. Instagram is Krish Himmatramka, my last name. So that's a long one there. But if you go to Do Amore's Instagram, DOAMORE, you can just message us and we'll find we'll our team will link you back to me on Instagram.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, thank you
Yeah.
for taking the time to talk to me today, Chris. It was a really
No,
nice
George, it's a pleasure.
conversation.
I appreciate. I've enjoyed listening to a few episodes, and I'm excited to get to be one of episodes. It's a real privilege, real pleasure.
Thank you.